The lights inside the massive America's Got Talent auditorium shimmered across thousands of eager faces waiting for the next contestant. The crowd buzzed with excitement, and the judges flipped through their notes casually, unaware that the next performance would become one of the most unforgettable auditions in AGT history. Backstage, a thin 14-year-old boy sat quietly on a plastic chair, clutching an old acoustic guitar with chipped paint and worn-out strings. His name was Mateo Reyes, and he had traveled more than 7,000 miles from a tiny fishing village in Cebu, Philippines. Mateo grew up in a fragile bamboo house standing dangerously close to the ocean. Every year, storms threatened to wash away his home, and every day, survival was a challenge. His father had been a fisherman who disappeared during a violent typhoon when Mateo was only 9 years old. Since then, Mateo helped his mother sell dried fish at the local market while taking care of his 2 younger sisters. School was a luxury he could rarely afford to attend, but music became his escape from reality. The guitar Mateo held was not bought from a store. It was assembled from broken pieces of abandoned instruments collected from a church storage room. A retired church musician noticed Mateo humming melodies while sweeping the church floor and secretly gave him permission to take the broken guitar parts. Mateo spent weeks repairing it using fishing wires and glue borrowed from a boat repair shop. The sound it produced was imperfect, but to Mateo, it was priceless. A small local singing contest changed everything. Mateo nervously performed in front of villagers during a festival and caught the attention of a traveling talent scout who had come to visit relatives in the province. The scout filmed Mateo's performance and uploaded it online. Within days, the video gained thousands of shares across social media platforms. Eventually, the video reached a junior AGT recruiter who was searching for raw international talent. Mateo received an invitation that felt impossible to believe. Backstage at AGT, Mateo struggled to understand English fully, but he memorized every sentence he planned to say. He wore second-hand clothes donated by neighbors who organized a small fundraiser to help him travel to America. His mother sold her only gold necklace, a wedding memory from his father, to complete the travel expenses. Mateo promised her that he would sing not for fame but to give his family a safer home. When Mateo's name was finally called, he stepped onto the massive AGT stage. The audience noticed his simple appearance immediately. His shoes were slightly torn, and his oversized shirt hung loosely around his shoulders. Simon Cowell leaned forward, observing him carefully. Sofia Vergara smiled warmly, while Howie Mandel gave an encouraging nod. Simon asked Mateo about his background. Mateo spoke softly, explaining that he came from a fishing village and learned music by listening to old radio stations powered by borrowed batteries. The audience listened quietly as Mateo described how music helped him cope with losing his father and facing poverty. Simon then asked him what he would be singing. Mateo replied that he would perform Hotel California by the Eagles. A ripple of surprise spread across the judges' table. The song was iconic, complex, and risky even for experienced performers. Simon raised an eyebrow and leaned back, clearly skeptical. The audience whispered among themselves, unsure if this young boy could handle such a legendary song. Mateo closed his eyes and strummed the first chord. The sound of his worn guitar echoed softly through the theater. For a brief moment, there was silence, and then Mateo began singing. His voice carried a haunting depth that no one expected. It was smooth, emotional, and filled with a mysterious maturity beyond his age. The audience froze in disbelief as his voice filled every corner of the auditorium. As Mateo reached the first chorus, something remarkable happened. The imperfections of his guitar created a unique tone that blended beautifully with his voice. His accent added authenticity, making the performance feel deeply personal rather than just a cover song. The judges slowly exchanged glances, realizing they were witnessing something extraordinary. Halfway through the performance, Mateo's guitar string suddenly snapped with a sharp sound that echoed across the stage. The audience gasped, expecting him to stop. Mateo's face showed a brief flash of panic, but then he did something unexpected. He continued singing without instrumental support. His voice alone carried the melody, echoing through the silent theater. The raw emotion in his voice became even more powerful without the guitar. The crowd erupted into spontaneous applause while he was still singing. Sophia wiped tears from her eyes. Howie leaned forward, completely captivated. Simon Cowell, known for his critical expressions, sat frozen, staring at Mateo with a mixture of shock and admiration. As Mateo approached the final chorus, the stage lights dimmed slightly, and the spotlight focused entirely on him. His voice trembled slightly, not from fear but from overwhelming emotion. When he sang the final note, it echoed beautifully, and the entire audience jumped to their feet in a roaring standing ovation. Mateo stood silently, breathing heavily, unsure of how the judges would react. The applause continued for nearly a full minute. When it finally quieted down, Simon Cowell remained silent for several seconds. The entire auditorium waited anxiously. Simon then slowly leaned toward the microphone and said that he had heard thousands of auditions, but he had never seen someone turn a mistake into such a powerful moment. Simon admitted that Mateo's performance was unforgettable. Suddenly, Mateo revealed a secret that stunned everyone. He explained that the broken guitar string was not his biggest fear. He confessed that he almost missed the audition because he was afraid his mother was seriously ill back home. He had received a message before walking on stage saying she had collapsed from exhaustion at the market. Mateo said he sang with fear in his heart but believed his mother would want him to finish the performance. The audience grew silent as emotions filled the room. Simon asked if Mateo had heard any updates about his mother. Mateo shook his head slowly. At that moment, the large screen behind the stage lit up, revealing a live video call. Mateo's mother appeared on the screen, smiling weakly but proudly. The AGT production team had secretly arranged medical care for her after learning about her condition. Mateo dropped to his knees, overwhelmed with relief and gratitude. Tears streamed down his face as his mother told him she was proud and safe. The audience began crying openly. Simon Cowell stood up slowly, walked toward the golden buzzer, paused for a dramatic moment, and then pressed it firmly. Golden confetti exploded across the stage as the crowd screamed with excitement. Mateo stood frozen as confetti rained around him, unable to fully process what was happening. The judges rushed onto the stage to congratulate him. Mateo hugged them nervously, still shaking with emotion. Simon told him that talent combined with heart creates moments that the world never forgets. Sophia whispered that Mateo's voice carried the soul of someone who had lived many lifetimes. News of Mateo's audition spread across social media instantly. Millions of viewers shared his story, calling it one of the most emotional AGT performances ever. Donations poured into support funds for Mateo's family. Volunteers began organizing rebuilding projects for his village, which had been frequently damaged by storms. Behind the scenes, Mateo struggled to adjust to sudden fame. He felt guilty leaving his village behind but remained determined to use his platform to help his community. He spent long nights practicing music while also learning English to communicate better with his growing global audience. As the competition progressed, Mateo faced intense pressure. Some contestants had professional training and expensive production support. Mateo relied only on his natural talent and emotional storytelling. Each performance told a chapter of his life story, connecting deeply with viewers. During the semi-finals, Mateo nearly withdrew from the competition after hearing false rumors online claiming his story was exaggerated. The negativity crushed his confidence. However, a letter from his younger sister reminded him that he was not just singing for himself but for everyone who believed dreams could grow even in the poorest places. The letter gave him renewed strength to continue. Mateo advanced to the finals after delivering a breathtaking performance combining traditional Filipino musical elements with contemporary Western melodies. His final performance was not just a song but a tribute to resilience, family, and hope. Though Mateo did not win first place, Simon Cowell offered him a recording contract and promised to support his music career. Mateo returned home temporarily to reunite with his family. When he arrived in his village, hundreds of neighbors gathered to welcome him as a hero. The same bamboo house he once feared losing now stood surrounded by community members celebrating his journey. Mateo used his earnings to build a safer home for his family and started funding music education programs for children in his village. His story inspired young dreamers worldwide, proving that talent can rise from the most unexpected places. Years later, Mateo's audition continued to inspire millions online. His voice remained a symbol of perseverance, and his story reminded people that sometimes the greatest performances come from those who have the least but believe the most.